And I just realized that here's mistake number one. My audio did not come up automatically when I started the show. So hey, let's start over again. My name is Paul Wertanen of Paul Wertanen Photography. I shoot with a Nikon DSLR 3300. I also shoot with my Samsung phone S24 currently. Now, I am a nature wildlife photographer and do landscapes, take lots of pictures of animals, birds, whatever I can take a picture of out in the natural world. Not the best people photographer. Maybe it's just because I'm a little introverted to be able to take pictures of people. Although, nonetheless, I have my fair share of people I have photographed. And maybe during this podcast or these videos, maybe I will start to improve my techniques with taking portraits and different things like that. But I like to sit out in nature, get away from the office, sit out in nature for a few hours and just shoot what's around me. Take pictures of the animals and the scenery, the flowers and just the little things that people may not notice. That's what I like about photography. I capture things that everyday people just won't notice. From the smallest things to the largest. Now, speaking of small to large, I am working at adapting my cameras. I do have an adapter for my telescope, so hopefully over time I will be giving you guys some pictures of things out in the solar system nearby, because it's not necessarily the highest and most quality telescope at the moment. But I can also take pictures of the smallest of items, because I do have microscopes here. So I can really get down into take pictures with microscopes. So what I really have a passion for is just getting out in nature, walking quietly through the woods, up and down mountains. Okay, well, I don't have a lot of mountains here in Minnesota, but for the past 12 years I had lived in Tennessee, so we did have some mountains down there. But I just like to get out and enjoy myself and enjoy nature. That is the fun of photography. Get away from the hustle and bustle of the job. Not saying I have a high stress job, but it's good to get away. It's also good for people who have families. You need some downtime. You need time for yourself, and that's what photography gives you. Now, as I said while the audio wasn't working on my video here, I do not like to edit. So I do minimal editing on my pictures. In fact, most of the time I will only just maybe tweak the exposure if maybe my pictures are a little dark. I do shoot in RAW. I sometimes shoot in RAW and JPEG. Depends on what my project is I'm working on. But mostly it's just RAW. So I am able to bring out some of the qualities of the picture that are hidden in there that may not be perfect coming right out of the camera. Now, with my video work here, with my live streams, with my videos I'm posting to YouTube, they're going to be raw in their own sense. They are going to be unedited. I believe in doing video work unedited because what you are going to see is mistakes. You are going to see all my mistakes, my mumbles and bumbles and forgetting what I'm talking about. That is where you learn the best. You learned how to be a good speaker. You learn how to formulate your sentences. Okay, of course, I'm going to have, most of the time, I'm going to have an outline here so I can at least follow some type of idea of how my show flow is going to go. But what I'm mostly looking at is I don't want to be scripted. I want to be natural. I want you guys to experience my mistakes. So you guys will get comfortable, hopefully over time, with the idea, You know what? You don't have to be perfect to do YouTube. You don't have to be perfect to get yourself in front of the camera. So many times I see people trying to reach that level of perfection before they even get started. And that I find is a problem, because then you never start. Now, I am not a professional photographer. By day, I repair medical equipment. That's my job. I repair medical equipment. I work in operating rooms in the Midwest here, in Minnesota and Wisconsin. Various operating rooms, depends on what needs to be fixed. Yes, things do break. I am there to fix it. I'm usually one of those guys behind the scenes. Most patients don't get to see me, but me and my team, we repair the equipment so that you all remain safe while you are in the hospital. That's my day job. I love it. I've been doing it for 20 years. But I also love photography because it allows me to get out and do something different. Get out and just sit there and listen to nature. Sometimes I'll sit in a tree stand, especially when I go to my parents' house. My parents have 40 acres of mostly wooded land. And I love just to get out there and see what's out there. I'll show you some pictures here coming up of things I've captured along the way at my parents' house and different places throughout the country. So, photography, I'm not a professional photographer. I have done some professional work in the past, but I just do it for the enjoyment of doing photography. I don't have to be perfect. I'm not stressing about needing to get that job. Oh, sure, absolutely. I would love to get a little bit more pay for my photography, but I do it because I love to do it. And I don't have the stress of deadlines with my photography. I just do it, and I love it. I have worked with film, and I have worked with digital. Both, and I think what's happened is I have really refined my techniques, learned a lot now that I've done digital photography. And here's why. With film, you only get that one shot to get that perfect picture. With digital, I could take that picture right here, look at it, say, you know what? Maybe I need to tweak this or I need to tweak that. So I can make some adjustments in my settings and get some better shots right away. In fast-moving environments, you want to do some test shots, obviously, first. But for the most part, most of my shots, I'm able to take my time, get the settings right, and do really good shots right out of the camera. As I said, most of my pictures are unedited. Speaking about that, right behind me here is one of my photographs that I will be showing you, but it's one of my photographs I took not too long ago. Actually, this year, I was looking out the window at my parents' house before anybody woke up in the morning, and I was like, you know what? That is just a really perfect sunrise. That is looking off to the west, and in the foreground here, you've got lilac trees and stuff like that, lilac bushes, more trees. You got the moon hiding up there in the corner, just right by my head here. Which way are we pointing? So there's the moon right up. Okay, that's harder than you think. Right there. Just a little bit of sliver of moon to wake us up in the morning. But I did get some pretty good shots of that. And yes, did play around with the color on one of them. But let's take a look at my shots here. We're going to fade out here. So I'm going to put myself down in the bottom corner. Here we go. My pictures. So this was the picture from my mom and dad's house. And you'll see the yellows kind of starting up there along the horizon. That is just perfect. It really gives a little bit of contrast to the picture. Can't see the foreground too well, but you know there's things there. You know that you can see the old vehicles are there. You can see the lilac bushes, lilac trees that are there. And off in the distance is that sunrise. And yet, right above it is the moon, not yet set. What I like, let me grab this right here. Bam! This was actually cropped in. So if you take a look at this picture, this area right here, kind of cropped in on that. And bam! Yes, I will admit I did tweak some colors because I thought this was just a wonderful picture of the sunrise. God, tweaked that color just a little bit. Not much, nothing major, but I wanted to bring out that background lighting. I love this picture. One of my more recent pictures that I've fallen in love with. Moving on. Ooh, this is one of my older pictures. This was when I was down in St. Thomas, Florida. Sitting on the beach, sunsets going down over the Gulf of Mexico. Yes, back then it was the Gulf of Mexico, now it's Gulf of America. But we were at a hotel. I was down there for a conference, and it's just like, wow, those two palm trees kind of framing in the sun as it's setting. The dark oranges, yellows and oranges that are on the horizon. That was just a wonderful shot. So now I've said I've been in 2 different states, Florida, Minnesota. Looking up next, Tennessee. This was taken when I was driving through Cades Cove. Well, actually, I was riding through Cades Cove in the Smoky Mountain National Park. And I just had my camera in my lap. I'm like, saw that little guy sitting on the fence, and I was like, wow, that is a perfect little picture. Just a solitary little bird sitting there enjoying the morning. So we jump from, let's remain in Tennessee. This was taken in my wife's flower garden in Ooltewah, Tennessee. We had lived there when we first moved down to Tennessee, and I liked how the water droplets just clung to the petals of this iris. I believe it's an iris. Yes. It just clung there, and you could see some of the flowers a little faded out, but the closer petals, wow, they just jump out. The vibrant colors. It's just something with that little bit of yellow center peeking out. Blurred background, so it just enhances that flower. Wonderful. I love it. And another one of my favorite pictures. Now, coming up next, the picture that I consider this my most favorite picture. And the reason why, as a photographer, you want to be aware of your surroundings. So that means don't always just continue to look forward, but sometimes you will get the spectacular views from straight behind you. And that is what this picture is. We're on the ferry heading from Bremerton, Washington, which this town in front of these mountains is Bremerton, Washington. We're on the ferry heading to Seattle, and nice early morning, and I was like looking at Seattle, the Rocky Mountains in the background and the city of Seattle in the foreground. And then I turned around and this is what I saw. The Olympic National Forest, the mountains of the Olympic National Forest are behind the city of Bremerton, and the snow-capped mountains just illuminated by the sun as it's peering from behind me, from behind the Rocky Mountains. In fact, that shadow line just right below there, the tops of the mountains, you see a shadow line. That is the shadow of the Rocky Mountains behind us, 10, 15, 20 miles away, whatever they are. I don't even know. Quite a ways away. And that was just like, wow, there is my shot. This was handheld, just a normal photograph. But as I said, it's become one of my favorite photographs of all time. Now, heading back to Florida. So we're leaving Washington, heading back to Florida. Seagull. I'm not sure what he's trying to do. He may be trying to pick some fish out of his beak or something. And it was this day, we were down in, this was Daytona Beach, Florida. We had gone down there for Christmas. So knowing Florida and around Christmas time is supposed to be nice and warm, it really wasn't. It was, let's say, cloudy, miserable, and windy, and yeah, it wasn't. It was still a fun trip. But the Seagull just happened to be in one of the only patches of blue sky that was out there. Everything around it was clouds. And I'm not even sure how I captured him without any clouds in the picture. I love the way the light just kisses his wings there and kind of creates that little shadow through the wings. And as I said, I don't know what he's doing, picking his teeth, picking his beak, but I felt that was a very great shot. Now, walking along the Appalachian Trail of Tennessee. This was up on Signal Mountain, Tennessee. Yes, Signal Mountain, Tennessee. And we're just walking along. And we're only a 15-minute drive outside of the city of Chattanooga. And there's the Tennessee River winding through the valley. And we just came across this overlook. I was like, wow, this is a great scenery, great picture. This was when we first moved down there. So we're talking, a decade ago. I hadn't been up on the Appalachian Trail down there. And just like, wow, this is a great place for a picture. Lo and behold, I found out later that this was a fairly well-known picturesque place where people did get a lot of pictures. But I just found it was perfect. I was like, wow. I like the way the branches are kind of hanging at the top of the screen, at the top of the frame there. And just the river winding through the mountains. And yes, that is definitely a straight drop. I'm not sure how many feet, but I'm going to go with 100, couple hundred feet, whatever it is, down into the valley heading towards the river. Back to Washington State. Up at Port Townsend, Washington. Kind of get on the beach there, and if you're looking at the ocean, you take a left and you just start walking down the beach a little bit. We were actually looking for Glass Beach, which is even farther down the beach, and we never even really found it. But that was a whole different story. But I found this wall of logs that probably was from an old pier or something like that, or just a wall. I'm not even sure. But I found these stones were stacked on the wall, and it was just like, wow, will make a great picture. Got the right angle, fading off in the distance, and another one of my favorite pictures. Now, as I said, I have gotten around the United States a little bit. Sixpence Pub in Savannah, Georgia. Savannah, Georgia, yes. The home of where Tom Hanks did that movie. Can't remember. The little brain fog here. Come on. Trying to remember. But Tom Hanks did a movie down there in Savannah, Georgia, not too far away from Sixpence Pub here. Out wandering around in the very early mornings, and I was like, that is a really good picture. I think I got up before most people, so there wasn't too many people in the shot. And most of my shots I did when I was down there. But I really enjoyed that morning walk around the city of Savannah. Back up to Minnesota, my mom and dad's farm. Now the interesting thing about this deer, she'd been laying there in the weeds. I climbed up into the tree stand. I'm sitting up in a tree stand. I have a 200 to 500 millimeter lens on my Nikon DSLR. And I'm just sitting there waiting and waiting. You know, just maybe something will walk by. And lo and behold, I heard some rustling in the weeds, probably 20 feet from the base of my tree that I was sitting at. And I kind of looked and I'm like, wait a minute, this deer just stood up. She had been sleeping right there, close to the tree. And I didn't know she was there. She didn't know I was there. And she was just sleeping there and decided, well, it's time to get up. I got a few pictures. Then she heard my camera and looked right at me just for this picture. Apparently I need medication to keep me alive. That's another one of my little tricks and secrets. So I had to take some medication. 7 o'clock every day. Lo and behold, most of you probably don't know. I did have open heart surgery earlier this year. See. We're coming up on 3 months ago. So December 2nd will make it my 3rd month. Had a valve replaced, so yep, I'm on medication for the rest of my life. I'll have to get used to it. But I can still get out and do some photography. Awesome. So this little lady just looked at me. When she heard that camera, just click, click. She didn't run off either. I just sat really still in that tree. Tried not to spook her. She just, after she got done looking at me, she just went back, eating and munching away on some really green weeds that were in the area. As she just kind of wandered off over the hill. She didn't, no hurry, just kind of munching as she headed on her way. Loved getting that picture. Speaking about great pictures, this guy right here, same day as that deer. He was way up in the top of a tree. It was kind of a dead tree. And he was up there. And I think I startled him about, and he's like, you know what? I think if I don't move, this guy's not going to see me. So I just slowly turned around, just pointed my camera up there, was able to take a couple great shots. And as he was slowly backing away and going around into the tree to hide, I imagine there was a family of raccoons that lived up in that tree, in the hollow of the tree. Maybe someday I'll get out there and discover that was the case. That was a year there was a lot of raccoons. I got a lot of raccoons that year. And, but yeah. just walking slowly through the woods, being aware of what is around you is where you can get some of the best shots. Just some incredible shots that you might not even think were possible. Oh, this guy's inquisitive little guy. Brand new young baby robin. Not too old. But he's sitting in the mulberry tree at my mom and dad's house. I get a lot of wildlife shots out there. But he was just looking at me, kind of like, huh? Who are you? He was eating mulberries and enjoying the tree. Love that shot. Just how inquisitive he is. Now this next guy also was looking for mulberries under the tree. This little guy, he wasn't too happy that I was even around. A lot of chatter coming out of that little guy, that little squirrel. Especially if he'd go into the trees just off to my left there. There was an old barn that trees have grown up at now that the barn's fallen down. He would go up in those trees and just chatter away, screaming at me. But every once in a while he'd come out and pose for me. I got some really great pictures of this guy. Just take your time, bond with nature. It's a great thing. Let's get going. Another deer. Mom and Dad's house again. This guy, I was walking down the driveway. The driveway is about a quarter of a mile, eighth of a mile, somewhere in there. And I was walking down and I heard this deer. I could hear the hoofs pounding on the ground as she was heading away from me. And I was like, oh, missed that one. Really missed that one. And lo and behold, I went and hid behind a bush, thinking I wouldn't see him. But as soon as I walked closer to that bush, bolted off across the field. But before heading over the top of that hill that he's standing on, just turned around, looked my direction, and just posed. I was like, wow, that's a great picture. I was extremely happy grabbing that picture. Wildlife is just so unpredictable. But have enough patience, have enough time, give yourself enough time. Nature works better with you than some people. And will give you some wonderful. If you don't scare them, they will give you some of the best pictures you've ever seen. Ooh, this guy was in Hickson, Tennessee. Hickson, Harrison Bay area. Harrison Bay. Went up there, walked around a couple little islands in Harrison Bay, snapping a few pictures on a Sunday morning, and kind of walking around a couple islands. There's some couple little land bridges that connected the islands, so I walked out around them. There's trails on the islands. I was like, I think this was framed well, especially with the stick there, the log branch that's kind of sticking up. Just could have gotten in the way, but didn't. And really was a great snapshot of this duck. Back to my home, and this is in a city called Soddy Daisy, Tennessee. Shortly after we moved into the house, and that is not anything I put out there for the deer. That I think the neighbors who were building the fence there had put some food out because they had seen some deer in the area. We had a lot of deer wandering through there. And there was just a couple of fawns that were there one year. I think this was the first year we were living there, and they were just over the time we were there. We were in that house for a few years, and we did see many deer, fawns. It was always interesting to go out to the backyard and see what we'd see next. Right behind us, or right on the other side of the deer there was a natural spring, so they had some water in their area. But it was all woodland right behind them. I forget how many acres, but maybe 100 acres or so of just woodland right behind them. So they had a lot of space to run back and forth. We saw a lot of deer back there. Could hear them sometimes. If you couldn't see them, you could hear them just running back and forth back there. This guy, a lot of people like this one. I love this picture too. This was taken in a city, Rochester, Minnesota. It's taken this last summer. I knew of this den of had some baby fox in it, and a friend had told me this is was right behind the old IBM building in Rochester, kind of on IBM's land there. And there was a den of fox. There were some fox pups back there. I'd say 5 or 6 pups. Mama, she was paying attention, but she stayed, kind of tried to get me to not notice her pups back there. But I was able to get some good shots. I did crop in on this. Once I got home, I cropped in on it because it was still a little far away for even my 500 millimeter camera lens. But we got there. Perfect pictures. I got a couple really good pictures out of that day of taking pictures of fox in the city. Back to Peterson, the mulberry tree, Minnesota. Robin. Lots of animals enjoy that mulberry tree. Even lots of humans do too. Mulberry trees are a great place to take pictures of birds and other animals. And my last slide that I have for tonight. This is a wonderful shot of this frog taken at the Atlanta Botanical Garden. Now, hopefully you're not listening to the dog running around upstairs above my head. Maybe you can hear her, but maybe not. But if you do hear some weird noises, probably the dog running around up above me. But I think I was the only person carrying around this massive lens on my camera, a 200 to 500 millimeter lens, while walking around the botanical gardens in Atlanta. But I would have never been able to grab great pictures like this without that lens. And nice thing is, I didn't have to get too close, and I could work around the people that were there. So there was crowds of people, obviously, but with my lens, I could kind of shoot right between them and capture some really, really good shots. People are looking at, a couple people made comments about, if I was too close or whatnot. And there was a couple times I'd be too close to a flower or something I took a picture of. But I was like, this is the lens to take when you're going to the botanical garden. I could take pictures of flowers from 20 feet away and get some really nice cropped in pictures. Frogs, lily pads, just really good flowers. Even indoors, I use the big lens for some really, really good shots. Well, I hope you enjoyed the little picture show here. Kind of a introduction to what I can do here. I didn't really have any pictures from my phone, but those will be coming up soon. My goal is to show you pictures I've taken, that I'm taking. I want to do different techniques. I have made some time-lapse made a time-lapse video, and I would like to do more of that. One of my goals this year is to maybe get out on by the Mississippi River and photograph some eagles. I have not had an opportunity to do that yet. Did go out not too long ago and really didn't get very good shots. They were definitely a little ways away. So I'm going to work at refining those. But I want to bring tips and tricks to you guys and let you know what I do to get some really good pictures. And not only that, but I intend to bring my picture taking into the studio here. So hopefully I can get some good pictures while in the studio. For now, that's all I have. I hope you enjoy this rambling on that I've done, and join me again. Hopefully it'll be just as exciting, maybe more exciting. Get to see more places I've been, more places I'm going to be, and we'll take these adventures together. So until next time. In fact, if you like this show, if you think I've got a good start here, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel. That's going to help me make some traction here, so I can help more people bring my photographic techniques and talents to more people. I will try to be on here, hopefully weekly. My goal is Tuesday evenings, around 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Central Time. And yeah, I hope until then you have a wonderful week, and we will see you next time. Take care.